Anthony, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I was so excited and looking forward to our conversation because you are a career satisfaction coach, which I actually never heard someone call themselves that. So, do you mind just sharing a little bit about what it is that you're passionate about and who you work with?
Yeah, so I'm not surprised to hear that you haven't heard of it because I kind of made it up.
I was going to ask, I didn't want to assume.
Yeah, I think many people in my position, I started as a general career coach. I started by helping people out with their resumes and getting new jobs. And it really was just like helping friends and colleagues as I was still in the corporate world. And then at a certain point, I started to realize that it wasn't just about the movement that was satisfying to me or the coming up with the narrative and putting it on a pretty piece of paper that really interested me. It was the person and their experience of their lives and their careers that was really what magnetized me and what had me feel like whether what I was doing was a success or not. And so when I kind of coined that phrase, career satisfaction coach, I put a lot of emphasis on that word satisfaction because I think there's so much focus in our society on what are you good at? That's essentially what the resume exercise is what are you good at? What skills do you have? What can you do for me? And of course, that's an important part of the equation. But in that discourse, what we lose is the person who's actually doing the career. And we put so much of our lives into our careers. It's the best hours of your day, it's the best years of your life. It really is an investment. And I firmly believe that if we're going to put down that investment, you better get something good out of it, aside from a paycheck. And so that's where career satisfaction coaching was born.
I love it. And you were in the corporate world.
I was.
Yeah, and I shared in the intro you graduated from NYU Stern School of Business, and you spent about 8 years, is that right, in corporate?
Hmm.
And what was your own personal journey with that experience, and why did you decide to leave?
Well, the entire time I was in corporate, I knew I didn't really want to be there, but I didn't have any idea of what else I would do or could do. I always knew that I wanted to go into business for myself. I just didn't have a solid business plan or idea. So I was just like, I'm going to park myself somewhere safe where I can learn and make some money, build some savings, and figure something out. And it was actually a really good learning experience. I did get what I came in for. And I think I had an experience that is representative of a lot of people, which is that it wasn't all good and it wasn't all bad. When we picture career change, often it's sort of like taking a hard left, like I'm going to quit in grand style, going to tell my boss where to shove it, and then I'm going to go and become a sheep farmer in New Zealand. This is one of the fantasies that I had in the height of some of my satisfaction. And my parents had to talk me off of that particular ledge. But the truth of the matter is, when I meet with somebody for the first time, they are always, almost always in a position of their current career is a partial match. Because if it was a full match, they wouldn't be talking to me. And if it was a full mismatch, they probably wouldn't be talking to me either because they would have already left, right? The
Right.
decision would be clear and it would be a much different exercise than help me figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And I can deeply empathize with that like middle ground tension because that pretty much defined my entire corporate career where I was one day I would walk in and be like, this is amazing. I'm so respected. People value my opinion and my contributions. I'm being promoted. And then the next day I would walk in and be like, I need to get the hell out of here. And everything about being in this place is driving me up the wall.
Do you find that when people come to you that they have a hard time? You said that you knew that you were somewhat dissatisfied, but you didn't know what you wanted to do instead. And I had the same experience where it's like, I know this isn't right, but I don't know what else I'm going to do. So I'm just going to do what I know how to do and I'll stay until I figure it out, which
Mhm.
is really hard to do on your own, I think. So do you find that when people come to you, they have a hard time visioning? They have a hard time sort of thinking beyond whatever society's definition of success is, whatever their parents told them might be a great path, whatever their teachers, whatever assessment told them, oh, you're good at this. We use all these external tools sometimes and
Mhm.
feedback to guide us, but it's really being able to tap in internally and figure that out for ourselves that sometimes is the hardest, but the most rewarding too.
It is. And that really is the sweet spot where I exist in the career coaching world. You're absolutely right. There are all these tools out there. I use them. I use
Sure.
personality assessments in my work. And the thing that matters most is you. It's what you want. It's what makes you thrive and how you define that for yourself. And I think one of the biggest traps that we collectively fall into is when we follow somebody else's template for what career means, whether it's your very well meaning parents or a guidance counselor, or in my case, for a couple years, I was following my boss's template. He saw a vision for me, how I could progress. And I followed that for a few years. It works great. I got a couple of promotions, but I was kind of like, after a year or two of this, I was like, well, this isn't doing it for me anymore. And the sticky thing about that is when it works, it feels like an empty victory.
Mhm.
I climbed up the corporate ladder. I had all the trappings of success. I was the picture of the poster child of the American dream, where the child of an immigrant comes and makes it into
Right.
the upper middle class. And I had the house, I had the car, I had everything. I'm very fortunate to have had that. And also, I was kind of like, I reached the goal and I was left depressed in my home by myself, kind of going, is that it? Is this seriously all there is?
It's so interesting having done this podcast, having lived through my own experience, how often people have the exact same response. It's that, oh, I'm here, but is this it? No,
Hmm.
this can't be it. And it's
Right.
that empty feeling. It's almost like you work so hard, you run so hard, you get to the end, and then you're not euphoric. You're not celebrating the success. You just go, oh,
It's really anticlimactic, isn't it?
it is. And then I feel I know myself and others. I don't know if you've ever struggled with being so grateful, but also being not content at the same time.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and then there's, like, the guilt of, "Wait, I should be grateful." Like you said, I'm also an immigrant. I came with my parents, and it's like, "Oh, I did all the things I was supposed to do. I followed the rules. I did all the stuff, and I got to this point, and why do I not feel happy and proud or
Mhm.
joyful or any of these things?" So there's a
Yeah.
lot of guilt sometimes and even shame with that because we're constantly reminded of how lucky we are, which is true. So how do you help your clients with, like, those feelings, or how did you deal with it yourself?
It is a super common phenomenon, and so much so that I've actually diagrammed out the cycle, and I call it the misery cycle, where it's that, like, interplay of things are I'm not happy, but, "Oh, look how amazing things are. I should really
Yeah.
be grateful. Let me put that in my gratitude journal."
Yes.
And then you get the attitude adjustment. The thing about this, the wonderful and horrible thing about this is that it works. You
Yeah.
give yourself that dose of positivity, you're grateful, and then what? You don't change anything. You remove the impetus to do anything about it. And then so what happens next is that a week, a month, however long later, the same thing happens and you go through the cycle again and again and again, and nothing really changes. And so, one of the first things that I help people do is actually take a pause and listen to their dissatisfaction because it actually, as uncomfortable as it is, as culturally stigmatized it is to sit in the negativity, it's actually a really important source of information. We have that response of, I'm not happy, things aren't working for a reason. It's like when you're trying to take care of a plant and you look at it and its leaves are brown and crisping up, you know there's something wrong. And
Yeah.
the something has to change or else this plant's going to die. And so that's the first thing we look at is what's going on? Why are we even talking?
Yeah. I love that. What else do you do with your clients? Could you walk us through what that process looks like?
Yeah. So the process goes through three major stages and it's kind of like an end to end process where you start off with like, I'm unhappy. I don't know why, and I don't know where I would want to go anywhere, all the way up to landing in the career where you're actually excited to wake up for. And how it starts is we have to understand you. We have to understand the person who's doing the career, especially because you're the one who has to live with the consequences of whatever decisions you make. And so in the first stage, we develop what I call a care card, which is kind of derived from when you buy a plant in the store, and it almost always comes the little tag on it that's like, this
Yeah.
is how much water I need, how much light I need, make sure I'm well drained or else I'll get root rot and stuff like that. But basically it's an instruction manual how to help this creature thrive, not just survive but actually do well and thrive.
Yeah.
And so what if we could develop that for ourselves? What if we could elicit from you an instruction manual that's very specific? And it is possible, and it's actually really revealing. And this helps immensely because it takes away that fog of uncertainty. One of the biggest challenges that people face, and I face myself, and I imagine you have as well, is that you're unhappy and you just don't know why, and you don't know what to fix, and you feel like you're just throwing darts at a board. And then you're paralyzed by fear that if I make a change, I don't want to make things worse. So you don't do anything. On top of all the whole like shame and disappointment and I should be grateful and all of that we kind of
Yeah.
just talked about. So there's a lot kind of keeping you stuck. And this is one of the first pieces that starts to dislodge things and get them moving. Because when we start to figure out what do you actually need, it very naturally bubbles up the next question of, okay, where can I find that? And that's the second part of the process, is setting your destination. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and it's just a matter of exploring. And sometimes what happens is that you realize that the hypotheses that you had before actually weren't very good ones. They were based on a fantasy and they weren't actually rooted in your care card, in what you need. So the difference in the process I take people through is that we use the care card as the starting point to say, this is what you need. Where can I get it? Another key difference is that we don't presume you have to change your job, because job change, career change is really stressful and it's really expensive and time consuming in all the ways. It's one of the most stressful things you can do to yourself is change careers. And so what we're looking for is the most efficient path to satisfaction. And sometimes it's just setting boundaries with your boss. Sometimes it's looking for an internal move to a different team within the same organization. And sometimes, yes, you do need to leave the entire organization or the entire industry, the entire profession. But kind of right sizing your approach, as opposed to what I was very tempted to do was move entire countries. And that's just an escape hatch.
Yeah. And at some point, I think that organizations should also, I think they are paying attention that their people are leaving, and that especially folks later in their career who might be really strong performers are like, yeah, this isn't doing it for me. Something has to change. Are you seeing any changes within organizations to really try to keep folks more engaged?
The good ones do. So, like anything else, there's a broad range. There are some organizations that really can give two rats' asses, and they're the exploitative ones that I teach my clients how to avoid, because there are pretty telling red flags, and just even how they write the job descriptions, you can kind of smell them a mile away. And then there are the really good ones that I had the good fortune of working for, where they had a strong HR function that did their job beyond just protecting the company or extracting the maximum value, that were very interested in talent development and retention. And they did a lot of really good things, not least of which was paying close attention to the people they were most interested in keeping at the company. It's one of the reasons why I stayed in corporate for as long as I did. I already knew 4 years in, I was like, I'm out of here. But I stayed an extra 4 years because they kept me happy enough. And anytime I was start to get kind of wobbly about it, they'd be like, hey, we noticed that it might be really good for you to get this kind of experience. Would you like this opportunity? So they were actually proactive about it.
That's good, and it keeps us distracted sometimes. So you're like, okay,
Mhm.
new opportunity. So, how long do people typically work with you? What are the types of programs or services that you offer?
It ranges. Sometimes it's a really finite job where somebody already knows, they kind of know what they want, but they don't know how to get there. They don't know how to create the narrative for a career pivot. Those are usually pretty short term, like 2 to 4 months. And then there are the broader questions of, I know I don't want to do this, but I don't know what's next. And that can range. That can be a much broader question to explore. And depending on the nature of the career, that could be anywhere from 6 months to a year, or sometimes even more. In the cases where it's more, it usually ends up looking the first 6 to 9 months are the exploration and the transition itself. And then once you land in the new role, that's just the beginning. Because I often say that career satisfaction is a choice you make over and over and over again. It's not just snap your fingers and I arrived and everything is perfect now. You have to set the right expectations. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to tend to your care card. It's not like you water a plant once and that's it.
Right. And do you find that most of your clients, are they in a specific age group, or do you have clients kind of across?
Across the board, I
Yeah.
work with people who are in their last year of college and kind of panicking
Yeah.
that they don't know what they want, all the way up to approaching retirement and wondering about legacy and what to do in their retirement, because that's a whole nother ballgame. But
Yeah.
the fundamental question is the same, because it's how do I engage my personality in what I do? And the only difference is the context and what resources and levers you have available. Like 20 something year old is going to have way more freedom and a lot less responsibility, but also a lot less power in the marketplace, and vice versa for somebody who's more seasoned.
How do you work with the young adults, especially either those that are about to embark on their career and maybe are stuck, don't know what they want to do? They've finished a degree and now they have to start applying. What are some of the things that you do specifically with that age group?
So do you remember when in the early days of the internet, when you had to like download a high resolution image, it would kind of come in like layers where the
Yeah.
first layer was super blurry. So when you're early in your career, you kind of only get the low fidelity image. And so the first thing is just getting comfortable with you're not going to know everything. And part of the task is just to get real life experience to figure out whether you like something or not. And so with my younger clients, I'm a lot more encouraging of moving on with a fuzzy sense as opposed to a very precise, refined understanding of yourself and what you need in a career. Because really, honestly, it's just, I don't know, go try it. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. And if you like
Right.
it, great. And if you don't, that's also great. We just learned something really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so important to get that experience. I think that we try to intellectualize everything and we want to think our way into the right answer, but you cannot unless you experience it. And I also tell my clients it's all information. It's not a failure
Mhm.
if you don't like it. It's actually great
Yeah.
information. You just know this isn't it.
Hmm.
And it's also great to figure out, oh, this does kind of light me up. Let me see if I can explore this a little bit more. So, what about legacy? What are some of the things that are really important for people that are near the end of their career and they want to maybe make a shift? Maybe they want to continue to add value in a greater way than they have before. What are some of the things that you work with them on?
Yeah. So here is where it really becomes more about satisfying someone at the core of their personality. And at this point in someone's life, they generally have a pretty well formed personality that you may not or may not have a firm understanding and ability to articulate it, but the personality is baked in. And so it really is about extracting the core essence of the care card and decontextualizing it from any particular work, project, or environment. Because your legacy is your personhood, ultimately. It's who you are, is how people remember you for. And so it could be, yes, if you've had a long and successful and fulfilling career, then yes, a good portion of your care card is going to be met through that. But also, it's not the only way. And so when I'm working with people who are exploring how to move in a different direction and do so at a different pace and for much more for their own satisfaction and interest rather than having to make a paycheck and pay off the mortgage, then you have a lot more options. And then you can start to explore, like, well, my care card was met through the job, capital J, but I could also meet it by becoming a ski instructor, a ski instructor, and also do some sculpting on the side just for fun. And I mean, I love skiing, and I can't tell you the number of people I've met on the slopes who are like in their 60s, they've had a successful career, and they just do like the ski patrol thing because they love it.
Yeah, right. It's so interesting to open yourself up when you can open yourself up to thinking beyond the predictable.
Yeah.
Suddenly, new ideas and new opportunities come in. And I love that you said it doesn't have to be just one binary choice. You could do a lot of different things and fulfill what
Mhm.
lights you up from within.
Yep.
So, what would you say to someone who's listening and maybe they're like, I know I'm not satisfied. I know that I could be doing something different, but I'm scared to make a change, or the timing doesn't seem it's right, or I don't know if I want to make the investment in working with someone. What would you say to them?
First of all, that fear is really, really valid. I see it a lot and I've experienced it. And you kind of have a choice to make. And either side of this choice is right, or it can be right. Basically, you can decide that the fear is louder than the desire to do something different, or you can decide that the desire to do something different is louder than the fear. And there are really good reasons to land on either side of that fence. But the most painful place to be is on the fence. And so I tell this to everybody that I speak to when they're meeting with me for the very first time and exploring, should I work with you, should I not? I say, my job in this conversation is not to sell you on come work with me. My job is to help you come to a decision. And I'm really not attached to whether you work with me or not. And in fact, I have a pretty robust referral network of specialists who do stuff that I don't do as well or I don't like doing. And so if you're in one of those categories, I will happily send you to the right person. You don't need to work with me. I'm just a really big believer in get off the fence. I know that's a lot easier said than done, but coming to terms with which side of the fence you are on comes with a lot of relief.
Absolutely. If folks are interested in learning more about you and your services, what is the best way that they can find you?
My website is untamedcareer.com, and that is my handle on all of my social media. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I think that's it.
How did you come up with that name?
Well, it was originally Empowered Nerd, which was more about me and less about what the feeling that I wanted my clients to have,
Hmm.
which is that when you're untamed, it's your life on your terms.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. Anthony, one of the questions I ask all my guests is what does it mean to you to live the width of your life?
Well, I think we alluded to it a little bit. I really think that work isn't and shouldn't be the one thing that defines you. And that might be a little weird coming from somebody who focuses his career on talking about career. But I think that it is really healthy to develop rich interests in a rich life outside of work. And for me, that looks like right now I'm really into training for a triathlon.
That's exciting. What are you most excited? Which part, if any, are you like, this is probably my weakest of the three?
Yeah. So I grew up swimming, so I feel very comfortable with the swim, which I know gives me a leg up on a lot of triathletes
Yeah,
because most don't come from a swimming background. But joke's a little bit on me because I'm a very beginner cyclist. I rode bikes as a kid, but I never did like serious cycling of any
sure.
kind. And I originally thought, oh, sure, that's kind of when I can coast and whatever. False. Cycling is the part that hurts the most. And so I've been mentally preparing myself to be the first out of the water and to like come to a full corral of bikes. And then after the bike leg, to still come to a full corral of bikes because I'll have been passed by everybody else.
Oh, well, I wish you so much luck and success in it and just be safe because those things can get intense. My friend has done the mini ones. I forget what those are called, the sprints,
Yeah,
the
that's
short
what I'm
ones.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And people are intense in the water. She said she's a strong swimmer. She's like, I had to get out because some people are really intense and pushing you down. So if you're a strong swimmer, I think that that's a really good starting advantage.
Yeah. Positioning in the water is a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get kicked in the face if you're not careful.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of your wisdom. The work you're doing is just so important for so many people are disengaged or dissatisfied. And we'll definitely include all of your links in the show notes. And I thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much for your interest and your really wonderful questions.
Yeah. Continued success to you.
And to you.